Good afternoon. I'd like to call the May 23rd Traffic and Parking Commission meeting to order. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I guess this is our first meeting of the year, so I'd like to wish everybody a Happy New Year, and we'll take the roll call.
Chair Turner.
Here.
Vice Chair Calderon. Excused, Commissioner Rice. Excused, Commissioner Emanuel. Excused, Public Works Designee Rosa Cortez.
Here.
Sergeant Pete Quinn.
Here.
Commissioner Swadling.
Present.
Commissioner Lang.
Here.
Thank you, Chair. You have a quorum.
Thank you. This meeting has been properly noticed and has been posted in accordance with the open meeting law.
Yes, it has.
First item is public comment. Comments during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed may be limited. Would anybody like to come forward at this time? Seeing none, move forward. All right, item number 4 is for possible action to approve the final minutes by reference of the regular meeting of December 14th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
This is Commissioner Swadling. I make a motion to accept them.
I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Motion carries, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Item number 5, discussion for possible action to approve the revised Neighborhood Transportation Management Program Manual, all wards. Mr. Robinson?
For the record, Sean Robinson, Assistant City Traffic Engineer. So today I'd like to just do a brief introduction and will be followed by a presentation. Okay. So thank you for joining us today. City Council adopted the Neighborhood Traffic Management Program, or NTMP manual, on May 3rd, 1995, or nearly 30 years ago. This manual provides the policy and procedures for the installation of traffic calming devices and other safety measures within neighborhood public streets. For well over the past 2 years, the City of Las Vegas has engaged a consultant to review these policies and procedures and to make recommendations on updating this manual. As part of this update, the city has worked across departments, including the City of Las Vegas Fire and other first responders, to satisfy their needs so they can safely perform their responsibilities. The updated document also outlines an updated scoring system to determine what level of improvements are warranted on a corridor. Many of these efforts for updates include lessons learned across the past 30 years about policies, process, and procedures that the previous manual was vague in addressing, and it's been updated to reflect the most current best safety management procedures from the Federal Highway Administration for proven and effective traffic safety countermeasures. There has been a focused effort to incorporate and make sure that this update for the neighborhood manual aligns with the City of Las Vegas Vision Zero Action Plan, which was adopted by City Council February 1st, 2023 by Resolution R5-2023. For reference, the City of Las Vegas Vision Zero Action Plan includes over 90 action items to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries while increasing safe, healthy, and equitable mobility for all. One of these action items includes the update of this NTMP manual. The updated NTMP manual will be distributed to individual citizens and neighborhood groups wishing to request traffic calming and other safety measures for their neighborhood and assist in the Traffic and Parking Commission process and procedures for addressing traffic safety on our neighborhood roads, all of which allows for improved transparency into the city process and procedures. Today I'm joined by our engineering consultant, John Tobin. John is a professional engineer and certified professional traffic operations engineer. He is an executive vice president at the engineering firm of GCW Engineering. John has over 36 years of transportation engineering experience including a specific focus in Southern Nevada. The Traffic Engineering Division recommends approval of the revised manual and kindly requests for your vote of approval of this item. Please help me welcome John Tobin as he presents about our updated manual and program.
Thank you, Sean. Pleasure to be with you this afternoon. For the record, John Tobin, GCW Engineering, 1555 South Rainbow Boulevard. I'd first like to highlight the purpose of the Neighborhood Transportation Management Program, or NTMP for short. It is to provide a clear process for the evaluation of neighborhood streets for the implementation of measures that reduce speeds, reduce cut-through traffic, and mitigate other unsafe conditions for pedestrians and cyclists. That serves the goal of improving the quality of life in our neighborhoods and providing safer conditions, especially for vulnerable road users. As Sean mentioned, the first NTMP was adopted in 1995. It was last updated in 2001, more than 20 years ago. A major factor in its development back then was the rapid growth in the 1990s that led to traffic issues that spilled onto residential streets. We are proposing a minor change in the title from Neighborhood Traffic to Neighborhood Transportation Management Program to emphasize that the multiple modes of transportation that include walking, bicycling, and transit. So what's changed? This is a more concise document than before with fewer chapters, and we believe it better outlines the process than before. And a flow chart has been added for that purpose. Again, technical references have been updated and measures have been added. And the measures have also been classified into 4 different levels, and I'll speak more to that later. As Sean indicated, the evaluation system has been updated, and it includes new speed metrics based on recent research. Those metrics include the percent of traffic traveling 5 miles per hour or more over the speed limit, as well as the percent of traffic that is traveling 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. And standard speed humps are now the slotted cushion design to better accommodate emergency response vehicles. This is a list of the technical references. As Sean indicated, they include publications of the Federal Highway Administration. They also include publications of the Institute of Transportation Engineers and the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. In addition to that, we've also reviewed the neighborhood traffic management plans of 18 communities and transportation agencies across the country looking for ideas to improve our own. The new NTMP does have 4 chapters. I'll talk a little bit about each one. There's a glossary of terms, and the appendices include the NTMP forms, the current speed feedback sign policy, and a toolbox of NTMP measures. The toolbox provides more detailed information on each potential measure, including a description of what it is, application considerations as well as concerns, and also the effectiveness that can be expected from a given measure. The introduction describes the purpose and need of the manual and outlines the NTMP goals. It also describes street classifications and identifies what kind of street is an NTMP, or is eligible for NTMP measures. It also previews the remaining chapters. So what is an NTMP eligible street? Well, first of all, it is a public street, and it is a 2-lane street, or a street that should be 2 lanes based on its function. It is a street that has or should have right-of-way widths of 60 feet or less, roadway width of 50 feet or less, a speed limit of 30 or less, and a daily traffic demand that is 7,500 vehicles or less per day. For traffic concerns on more major streets, residents are directed to the city's Report a Problem link or to the Traffic Engineering Division's phone number. They may also be directed to a number of transportation fact sheets that have been developed in parallel with this NTMP update. Those fact sheets address a number of common transportation concerns and questions that are related to more major streets as well as NTMP eligible streets. Again, NTMP measures have been classified into 4 levels: education and enforcement, maintenance improvements, minor construction, and major construction, and we'll talk about what each one generally encompasses. Level 1 education enforcement includes educational materials that are available on the city's website, including the transportation fact sheets I just mentioned. Includes referrals for targeted traffic enforcement. It also includes community meetings to hear and better understand neighborhood concerns and hopefully identify the steps to address and resolve them. Maintenance improvements include a number of fairly routine improvements that can be made administratively by issuing work orders for city maintenance crews or by incorporating these measures into pending projects for a given street, such as a street rehabilitation project. They include a number of signing and striping treatments, also includes upgrades to lighting luminaires to provide improved illumination on a street, includes speed feedback sign installations. Minor construction includes vertical deflection treatments, including the commonly used speed hump. It also includes new lighting infrastructure that would go beyond simply a luminaire upgrade to include new light poles and the underground improvements that go along with that. Major construction covers improvements that change roadway or street curb lines and the drainage flow lines of the roadway. So that includes curbed horizontal deflection and width reduction improvements that are listed here. It also includes roundabouts where the outside curb line of an intersection is modified. And level 4 includes route restrictions where a street may be closed or certain movements at an intersection physically prohibited. Level 4 improvements typically incur higher costs than level 3 due to impacts on street drainage and utilities. And the level 4 route restrictions often impact a larger area than level 3 improvements. Finally, moving on to the background chapter, it does provide some historical context that we mentioned. It also provides statistics on the safety importance of reduced speeds, and it describes related transportation initiatives and other city initiatives that the NTMP works in coordination with towards common goals, and that includes the Vision Zero program that Sean mentioned. The process and procedures chapter describes a 4-step process for level 1 and level 2 improvements, and a 6-step process for level 3 and level 4 improvements. And again, a flow chart has been added to the manual to better clarify and describe that process and also provide typical timelines for each step along the way. Each process starts with the identification of a concern through an NTMP request. The city typically requires a petition with 10 signatures. In addition to the 10 signatures, HOA approval is required if there is an HOA. The city then conducts a preliminary review and screening of the petition to determine its validity and to confirm that it is an NTMP issue. The petitioner is advised whether the petition is eligible for further study under the NTMP program. If it is, data is collected and a study is conducted. The data is analyzed against a scoring system based on speeds, traffic volumes, crash experience, and also characteristics of the street in question. If a site scores 100 points or more, it is eligible for a level 3 or level 4 improvement. If it scores below 100 points, it is still eligible for a level 1 or level 2 improvement, and the petitioner is advised of those findings. little bit more about the scoring system. It is somewhat similar to the previous scoring system that was used for speed humps. Again, the speed criteria has been updated to include percent of traffic 5 or more miles per hour over the speed limit and percent of traffic 10 or more over the speed limit. Also, a factor has been added for streets with fronting residential properties with back-out driveways. Retained criteria include traffic volumes, proximity to schools and school crossings, pedestrian-oriented facilities along a street such as a park, and for site restrictions along the street. And the system has been calibrated for a 100-point threshold where a 40-point threshold was used before. If a study determines that a level 1 or level 2 measure is appropriate, they will be implemented administratively, and that essentially concludes the process for those improvements. If the study determines that a level 3 or level 4 improvement may be appropriate, there are more steps. The first step is Traffic Engineering Division staff develops a conceptual plan for the improvements and determines if there is available funding to move it forward. If not, the petitioner is advised that the implementation is on hold until that funding can be identified. If there is funding, a test installation may be appropriate to install and evaluate before permanent improvements are put in place. If so, again, the petitioner is notified in that event, and affected residents as well. If it is determined that a permanent improvement is warranted, then the Traffic Engineering Division staff prepares a descriptive exhibit and letter that is mailed to affected residents. Now, most level 3 and level 4 improvements require Traffic and Parking Commission approval. So most of those notices will include the time and date of the commission meeting at which those improvements will be heard. And that meeting will serve as the public meeting for those proposed improvements. The approved measures that are approved at Traffic and Parking Commission will proceed to the final planning and City Council approval. And for measures not approved, petitioners will be advised of the City Council appeals process. A level 3 or level 4 improvement may be funded and approved by City Council as a standalone project or as part of a larger capital improvement plan project. If it is standalone, an agenda item is prepared for council action. If it is incorporated into a larger project, its approval becomes part of that project. If it is not approved by City Council, residents may request that alternatives be considered. For approved measures, construction drawings and work orders are prepared for its implementation, and that implementation construction may be by city forces, it may be contracted out, or again, it may become part of a larger project. After the measure is in place 4 to 6 months, an after study is conducted to determine its effectiveness. If things are operating satisfactorily, it is monitored and maintained on a routine basis. If not, it may be removed or modified at the discretion of the city traffic engineer. And if there is a request for the removal of an NTMP measure, it follows a process similar to an installation request. Measure selection starts with the determination of measures that are compatible with a given street. For instance, if a street under study has a transit route on it, it's probably not compatible with a raised crosswalk because of the impact that would have on buses and its passengers. Once compatible measures are identified, then the measure that's most likely to address the operational concern, the measure or measures most likely to address the concerns can then be selected. And of course, the cost of a measure is an important input into its evaluation for implementation. And the manual does contain some tables detailing the factors that go into that selection process. The city has been using a number of measures that were not explicitly listed in the previous NTMP. That includes targeted enforcement, sight distance improvements, improved lighting, and road diets. The mountable traffic circle, listed second from the bottom and shown in the photograph, is a new measure. It is similar to a mini roundabout, a small mini roundabout, where the outside curb lines of an intersection are not modified. The mountable center island itself is similar in height to a speed hump, so if a vehicle chooses to drive straight through the intersection, they do experience a vertical deflection similar to a speed hump. As I mentioned previously, a number of transportation fact sheets have been developed in parallel with this update to address a lot of common transportation concerns on more major streets as well as NTMP eligible streets. That does conclude our presentation. I would like to try to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tobin. That was a very well put together program. Appreciate it. That manual's, I read through it, and it's very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions, or if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I have a question. How much federal funding is involved in this? Can it be answered?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, how much money, federal funding is involved in this?
For this update,
Yes,
or for
for the entire project?
this program right here?
Yes.
Yeah, so this, for the record, Sean Robinson, Assistant City Traffic Engineer, there was no federal monies that were used as part of this project. There's no federal money, it was all local money that we used.
As far as the study goes?
Yes.
Okay, and what about implementation?
Implementation of these improvements?
Correct.
Well, they're all separate, and they'd be specific to that installation. I believe at the end of it, there are some prices that are provided in here as backup information for every specific installation that would be. So this manual just covers the process and procedures for traffic calming elements, and then those traffic calming elements would either be done administratively or go through the board for recommended approval at that time.
Okay, the other question I have is that I noticed that the pictures that were in here and so forth, they were all done on a Monday. Would traffic be any different over the weekends?
Which studies are you referencing?
Well, I'm referencing the pictures that were supplied here showing about doing away with the parking.
Oh, so that item is item 6. This is just for the Neighborhood Transportation Management Program.
Just for the new program being updated, revised?
Yes, item 6 will be covering the Maryland Parkway
Okay.
project. Understand.
Any other questions? Excuse me, any other questions, concerns? Is this a public hearing? I didn't request that. This is a public hearing. Anybody in the audience like to come forward? If they would, state your name for the record. Seeing as how we have none, we'll go ahead and, go ahead.
I have no questions. Are we making a motion?
Go ahead, make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the Neighborhood Transportation Management Program as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion. Ron Kelderum.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Motion carries, Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to item 6, discussion for possible action to remove parking along the limits of Maryland Parkway BRT Bus Rapid Transit Project. Wards 1 and 3, Knutson and Diaz. Mr. Robinson?
Thank you. For the record, Sean Robinson, Assistant City Traffic Engineer. City of Las Vegas has been working in conjunction with the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada and the Federal Transit Administration for the better part of a decade in bringing to life a high-capacity transit project along the Maryland Parkway corridor. The Maryland Parkway Bus Rapid Transit Corridor extends from the south side, the South Strip Transit Terminal in the south, to the Las Vegas Medical District in the north. It includes 23 transit route connections, 9 of which are the busiest in the valley. This investment and development of transit along this busy transit corridor encourages transit-oriented development, which is a type of development located close to high-quality, high-capacity transit that creates a compact, walkable, and mixed-use area. One of the goals of the Maryland Parkway project is to spur transit-oriented development in Las Vegas Valley, which is in agreement with the City of Las Vegas 2050 Master Plan. In August of 2024, the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada will be starting construction on the Bus Rapid Transit project. In partnership with RTC and other major infrastructure improvements have been programmed to be implemented while this corridor is impacted during construction. Just alone within the City of Las Vegas limits, the construction and infrastructure improvements represents a $130 million investment to the City of Las Vegas, which includes miles of dedicated transit lanes, miles of full-width roadway resurfacing, transit shelters, over 28 traffic signal improvements, miles of intelligent transportation fiber systems, hundreds of new streetlights, conduit systems, and miles of wider sidewalk and storm drain improvements. This project will very much transform the Maryland Parkway corridor and how it looks while improving safety and traffic operations for all road users. Within the City of Las Vegas limits, the Bus Rapid Transit will run along Maryland Parkway, Carson Avenue, Casino Center Boulevard, Bonneville Avenue, Alta Drive, Tonopah Drive, Wellness Way, and Shadow Lane. There will be a presentation that describes all of the limits of this. The majority of these corridors will have curbside shared bus-bike lanes. In order to accommodate this project improvement, approximately 200 on-street parking stalls will be removed, which will be covered in more detail during the project presentation. RTC has been a great partner and has coordinated several public outreach efforts with the City of Las Vegas Transportation Engineering Division, council ward offices, and most importantly, residents and businesses along the impacted corridor for the past 7 years. Residents were given the opportunity to voice their concerns with the RTC. Furthermore, the City of Las Vegas Parking Services Division was involved throughout the process and have helped identify available parking lots in the vicinity of the project that are not at current capacity, all of which will supplement the parking that will be lost with this project. Today I'm joined by the Maryland Parkway team, Tim McCoy and Bridge Galati. Tim McCoy is a professional engineer and certified professional traffic operations engineer. He's the president of GCW Engineering. And also joining us today is Bridge Galati. Bridge is a professional engineer and the director of capital projects at the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada. The Transportation Engineering Division recommends the removal of parking for the Maryland Parkway BRT project to provide improved transit connectivity for several destinations along the BRT route. This request is based on our diligence and community outreach and alternatives to parking within the area. Again, your vote for today is not specific to the approval of this project, but only limited to the removal of parking as it relates to the limits of City of Las Vegas. Joseph Norby, City Traffic Engineer, and myself will answer any questions that you have, and we kindly request your vote for approval for this item. Please help me welcome Tim McCoy with GCW.
Thank you, Sean. That was a very comprehensive intro. So I'm Tim McCoy, GCW, 1555 South Rainbow. I'm the design consultant for this project. As Sean mentioned, the Maryland Parkway corridor is extensive. It's almost 12.5 miles. But as you can see from the project map, about 6 of it is on Maryland itself. Other roadways in the City of Las Vegas are 13th Street, Carson, Casino Center, Bonneville, Alta, and then through the Medical District on Tonopah, Wellness, and Shadow. Few overviews. There's a current Route 109 that RTC runs. This is to replace that from all the way from the STT all the way to the Bonneville Transit Center. So this is a replacement and enhancement of that corridor with the BRT system. It does also extend all the way to the medical district, so we can tie in all the uses on the hospital and all the medical district to tie that into our system. Like I said, it's about 12 and a half miles in length, 58% exclusive lanes with a BRT/bike lane. Jurisdictions are Clark County, south of Sahara, north of Sahara, of course, City of Las Vegas, and we go through 3 NDOT roadways. The funding is a combination of FRI local funding and also FTA funding, which we received almost $150 million of federal money on this. The project will also purchase hydrogen fuel cell electric buses to use along the corridor. As Sean mentioned, this is an extensive transit corridor for RTC. You can see the multiple large activity centers, employers, and destinations that are along the project, all the way from the medical district, all the way down to the Harry Reid International Airport, UNLV, Sunrise Hospital, downtown Las Vegas, as well as Symphony Park. This is a rendering of the proposed improvements on Maryland Parkway itself. It's a 100-foot arterial roadway, mostly out there. It's 6 lanes with a median and middle turn lane. What we're looking at doing is converting the outside through lane and also where there's parking north of Franklin or Oakey to this BRT bus lane. So this lane will be used exclusively for bikes, buses, and turning vehicles that'll be going into driveways for a short period of time. We'll also have enhanced transit shelters. These are exclusive to the BRT, and they provide a lot of the things that the passengers like, with added shelter for shade, lighting, and we looked at a lot of security systems along this with some camera systems. We also put in raised medians where they're not, and put put landscaping for trees in the middle of them to kind of create more of a complete street narrow. One thing, the widened sidewalks, the curb lines for the majority of the route will be moved in 5 feet to provide 10-foot curbs, sidewalks along the whole corridor, which will provide the multi-use accommodate a lot of the pedestrians out there today. This is a cross-section on Carson Avenue. We'll have a center two-way turn lane through the middle and with a lane in each direction. And then the outside lane will be used for bike, bus, and turn lanes. Also, the widened sidewalks will be typical downtown standards with the 10-foot and tree wells where they can be accommodated by utilities and site distance. As Sean mentioned, this is a long project in the making. As part of the environmental assessment that was completed in 2019, extensive public outreach was conducted for this, and on-street parking was always one of the things that was included in this project. A breakdown of the locations and the number of spaces that will be removed on Maryland Parkway from Oakey to Charleston. There's approximately 42 spaces. On 13th Street, Charleston to Carson, there's 30. Maryland Parkway, Charleston to Carson, there's 33. And the majority of the corridor or the removed spaces will occur on Carson from 3rd Street to 13th with 84. Tonopah Drive from Wellness to Alta, there's 9. And Wellness Way, Tonopah to Shadow, there's 3. As you can see this map, this kind of highlights the Maryland 13th one-way couplet as well as Carson. The red segments, short segments, those are the parking, where the parking will be removed. The green, especially as you see on Maryland and 13th, on the lower right-hand of the exhibit, that's where we'll maintain parking. And also, to note, the yellow locations are the city metered lots that will be available for the removal of the park for parking that are accessing the businesses along Carson. As part of the public outreach campaign this February, we sent out postcard mailers to 148 addresses, which would be the property owners. both homes and businesses along the corridor. We broke the mailers up into 3 distinct areas, Maryland Parkway, Oakey to Charleston, and then Carson Avenue, Maryland and 13th, that kind of more downtown core, and then the medical district with Tonopah and Wellness. We completed this in both English and Spanish, and we mailed this out February 20th of 2024. This is a sample of the mailer that was used for the Maryland Parkway, Oakey to Charleston. This was the one that was sent out for Carson, Maryland and 13th Street, 13th Street. And this is the mailer that was sent out to the property owners along Tonopah and Wellness. In addition to that, we understand that sometimes the property owners aren't necessarily the businesses or the person who occupies the building. So we also sent out, or we had 120 door hangers. We had people go out and hang door hangers on these in the 2 areas on Maryland Parkway from Oakey to Charleston, and then also in Carson Avenue, the Carson, Maryland, and 13th Street. We didn't do it out in the medical district because of the size of the developments, and we've been coordinating a lot with UMC and Valley and a lot of the development that's already occurring on Tonopah, so they're familiar with the project. These were delivered on February 7th, 2024. These are a sample of the door hangers that were placed on the businesses and homes. So of all the door hangers and the flyers that were handed out, we had 4 comments total that were received from the RTC, or to the RTC. 2 of them had to do with parking, one about specifically impact to their business, and parking for their specific business will not be impacted. They were not even in the location that were going to get hit by the no parking, parking removal. The other one was the loss of parking. There was one business along Carson that submitted that question, and we just pointed them in the direction of the map that we had that shows there's available parking, just on the side street as well as the city metered lots. The other 2 were more, one about construction and one more about the project in whole. These were answered and responded to. We've done a lot of public outreach to this point, but now it really starts with the construction starting in the 3rd quarter of this year. We have an extensive plan to not only update the public, but also the stakeholders along the corridor. We just held some recent lunch to get everybody on board and try to work out. We look to do a lot of biweekly meetings to talk about the 3-week look-aheads, as well as the contractor and our construction management team will be very hands-on and establish a good database and a good relationship with the people that are going to be impacted by this project. We have set up a website that provides information, as well as a place that you can leave comments, questions, as well as a project email address and a phone project information line. It's not a hotline. Don't expect somebody to be on the other line, but we will get back to you within 24 hours of those phone calls. With that, I'll turn it over to Sean, back to Sean to field any questions.
So, for the record, Sean Robinson, Assistant City Traffic Engineer. Happy to answer any questions that you have. We're joined today with Fire, Joe Norby, the City Traffic Engineer, and our parking services as well, if you have any questions.
This item has been advertised as a public hearing. If there's anyone present who would like to speak on this item, please come forward, state your name for the record. Seeing none, I'll open it up to the commissioners.
This is Commissioner Swadling. One question. On Maryland Parkway, is it currently a 3-lane thoroughfare in both directions?
Yes.
And according to your map, it would be reduced to 2 lanes, correct?
Yes, we'll be having 2 lanes in each direction. What we did at the intersection locations to allow for additional capacity with taking the lane at the intersection, we do have right turn lanes at some of the major locations to accommodate for the additional loss of lane that can be used as a right turn lane. We completed, or RTC completed, a traffic study as far as the environmental analysis to run this and to prove that there was capacity along this corridor with the reduction in the lane to be a exclusive BRT bike lane. Most of you probably have driven that several times. There's a lot of businesses' driveways. A lot of the time, the outside lane is clogged due to people coming in and out of driveways. That will not be impacted. They will be able to turn from this lane, right turns into and come out of. It's just the actual thoroughfare. So if you take in the impact of that turning, the outside lane wasn't at really full capacity anyway, so the capacity and the analysis proved that it could be accommodated.
Just to follow up on that, was there any type of study done that for the amount of traffic that would impact from 3 lanes going down to 2 lanes? Because it is a busy corridor.
Yes, it was. I mean, we looked at 20-year projections to do that, and yeah, it was completed as part of the environmental assessment reviewed by the city of Las Vegas, and as well as FTA and everybody else that wanted to review that.
And I can add on to that as well. So in addition with this project, a big investment was done for the traffic signals, which I had mentioned, and there's almost 30 traffic signals that are going to be upgraded as part of this project. And as part of that, that's also the communications that's with those signals to provide improved timing along that corridor. So Tim is correct in saying that it's going to be reduced from 3 through lanes to 2 through lanes, but there is still going to remain to be 3 lanes on that road. And while that outside lane that you were shown is red and a dedicated lane, that is a right turn lane for vehicles to access driveways and turn into their driveway. So there's 3 lanes today. There's going to be 3 lanes after the project as well. It's just one of them is going to be dedicated primarily for that bus lane, but it can be used for turning right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Very well done. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's my understanding this project's already been approved. We're just voting on the removal of the parking, correct?
That's correct, just the removal of the parking.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to entertain a motion?
Commissioner Swadling, I'd like to make a motion to accept the parking. Is that what I'm?
The removal?
The removal of the parking, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries, Chair.
Item number 7, citizens' participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No subject may be acted upon by the commission unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Is there anyone in the audience that has anything to say? If none, we'll close the hearing, and I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.